It's almost the weekend, and the Liberals must be thinking TGIF. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Prime Minister Carney will be in Washington next week for a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. But this week was a short week on Parliament Hill, and if you're a Carney Liberal, you probably can't wait to see its backside. The opposition is making nonstop demands, support for the budget is shaky, and the budget watchdog says the government's finances should scare the pants off of every Canadian. Let's recap. The Conservatives were squarely focused on high-profile domestic issues this week, forcing votes on things like grocery prices and getting tough on crime. They put a motion on the floor calling on the government to do something about high food prices, with the Conservatives calling for the elimination of the industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment. This was Conservative MP John Barlow from the riding of Foothills in Alberta.
Well, I'd like to give the Prime Minister some facts. The fact is, food prices have increased nearly 40% since these Liberals were elected 10 years ago. I saw it at the grocery store this weekend. Pork shoulder was up 37%. My coffee was up 25%. A little package of lunch meat was almost $10. The Prime Minister said he would be judged by food prices. Food Banks Canada has now said a quarter of Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. That should never be the reality in this country. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing, support the Conservative motion, and scrap his taxes on farmers and the food Canadians rely on?
The Conservative motion went down to defeat, which was just what the Conservatives wanted. Shortly thereafter, they were taking to social media, saying the Liberals voted to keep taxing your food. The Conservatives were also talking about law and order this week, calling for an end to easy bail conditions in keeping with the Conservatives' call for jail, not bail. This was Pierre Poilievre.
We have Constable Greg Pershella, who was killed by a man released yet again on bail. We have a woman killed by her husband after he was arrested and released 30 times because of Liberal laws. We have 1,600 crimes every single day in this country because of the Liberal laws. Will he stop screaming, hollering, and jabbing his finger and scrap Liberal bail?
On bail reform, Prime Minister Carney insisted change is coming.
Mr. Speaker, this government, which has been in place for 6 months, has undertaken comprehensive consultations with law enforcement, with the provinces, based on evidence, is bringing forward the toughest bail legislation and sentencing legislation that will work, not one imported from the United States.
It's not just the Conservatives pounding away at the Liberals. The Bloc Québécois, with the third most seats in the House of Commons, is also not speaking in very kind tones about the record of the Prime Minister so far, with the party's leader, Yves-François Blanchet, saying Canadians were duped into voting for Mark Carney.
I must add that the federal government has surrendered everything. Anybody can check. Counter tariffs, frontiers, defense, taxes on the giants of the web, and now opening to some negotiations, which of course are not good for Quebecers and Canadians. And Mr. Carney, who has been elected, saying, I'm the new hero. I'll come from the sky with a cape. I will start negotiation 1 week before the election. I will fix the tariffs, and I will start a negotiation for a new trade agreement. 6 months later, we have seen nothing of it. Nothing of it. And I will remind to everybody that those projects that he wants to go forward with against the rules and the provinces and Quebec will not change the economy of Canada before years after Mr. Trump is no more President of the United States. So some questions have to start being asked quite seriously.
With the Liberals in a minority government and with the bloc leader sounding like that means the 7 lonely NDP MPs do have some power. And Don Davies, that party's interim leader, told reporters this week he wouldn't accept a budget that includes anything that looks like austerity.
We never evaluate a budget until we read it. I don't know how you can position yourselves on a document, especially one as important as this government's first budget in some very challenging economic circumstances, without reading it. So our first pledge is that we will wait for the budget to come out. Second, again, we're going to have one major lens looking at this budget. Is it good for working people or not in this country? And that's going to be the focus of what we're looking for. I am concerned about framing this budget as austerity. That's not what New Democrats think should happen right now. We believe this is a time for investment in our healthcare system, investment in non-market affordable housing, and creation of jobs. We're facing a significant jobs crisis in this country. We lost 100,000 jobs just in the last 2 months of summer. And, we just had bad news out of Calgary and Oshawa. We're shedding thousands of jobs. And if you're young, especially 1 out of 6 young people, is out of work? That's a crisis.
But while the NDP wants investments and won't accept austerity, the parliamentary budget officer, Jason Jacques, the top money watchdog on Parliament Hill, suggested to a Senate committee this week the government is trying to avert a car wreck with the nation's finances.
The challenge for the federal government was that in the current environment, they need to put their foot on the brake and the gas at the same time and hold on to the steering wheel and make sure that they're able to maintain control of the car. And I would say over the past 30 years, it's an exceptionally challenging, probably potentially the most challenging fiscal situation for any government, because in the past, when they have faced a challenging fiscal environment, they've only had to do one of two things, either the brake or the gas. So in the 1990s, it was bring it back to balance, so like cut effectively, or push off the responsibilities to other provinces through reductions to transfers. You take the example of 2008, it was a situation where how much money needs to be spent and what sectors are going to be left outside of the standard federal government interventions. And now the federal government is faced with a situation, all of you are faced with a situation where they need to do both at the same time. So both reduce spending in some areas and expand spending in other areas, and do it very quickly. It makes it exceptionally challenging.
It's just about a week ago that the parliamentary budget officer forecasted a budget deficit for this year of more than $68 billion. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
With our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership, Barry McLoughlin is back with us, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. Read Barry on a Substack, listen to his podcast, and listen to him here every Friday with us. How are you?
I'm great, Rob. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Well, here's a good one for you. According to some experts, the Carney government is being asked to consider raising the GST in this fall's budget to help improve the government's financial picture, which is not great. Now, you were there back in the old days, Barry. You were advising the Mulroney government about messaging of the GST because, as you've told us before, it wasn't going very well. What would be your advice to this government on the GST?
Well, I was brought in after the deed was done, so it's like, why didn't it work? Is really what my cabinet presentation was. This would be great public policy, as they say. It'll raise a ton of money, and every government loves to rake it in. That's why Korski vowed to get rid of it. Of course, he didn't. All of them vowed to get rid of it, and of course, they didn't. So they just loved it because of the mountains of money that come flowing in. It's a huge mistake at the political level, however. any government that's tried it, and of course the Mulroney government, it became under Preston Manning's coining the phrase, the Mulroney tax. It became the Mulroney tax, which meant that every transaction would have it on there because government said, to be fair to them, we want it to be visible so people know what they're paying. Oh yeah, they knew all right, and they hated it. So that's number one, that politically it's never worked any more than the carbon tax didn't work. It might have worked for the public policy reasons, but did not work at the political level. And Mr. Carney couldn't wait to scrap it. First thing he did. So I think I don't believe he will do it. He knows the poison in the political world of being the owner, author of squeezing more money out of the taxpayers' pockets in that way. So it's also regressive. It's the tax that's regressive, whereas income tax is scaled according to your income. This one is the rich pay the same amount as the poor. So again, it's hard for him to justify that. So I don't believe actually they will do that, even though it's probably very tempting given the size of the deficit.
Right. So this is kind of the classic divide between policy and politics, Barry. It might be great policy. Maybe the policy even makes sense. Raise the GST, bring in more revenue. But politically, it's just a non-starter given the current economic climate. So many people financially struggling. There's just no way you could successfully politically sell it, raising the sales tax on people at this particular time.
Absolutely. When Stephen Harper dropped it from 7% down to 5%, went to majority government. People liked him for that. It just wouldn't work at the political level. You're absolutely right.
Okay. I'm going to stop a little bit early with you. When we come back, I want to talk about, it'll be Remembrance Week soon enough, in about a month from now, as a matter of fact. And the House of Commons will not be sitting that week. It never sits during Remembrance Week because MPs will go back to their ridings. Not just for Remembrance Day, it will be a whole week of events. They'll be visiting Legion Halls, going to cenotaphs, and they will be laying wreaths. And there is a new instruction to MPs that they will be limited to 2 Remembrance Day wreaths per riding for Remembrance Week. I don't think that's going to go over very well. I would encourage the government to revisit that. I want to know what your advice would be to the government. When we come back, I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
We're back with Barry McLoughlin, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. There are some stories in the news this week, Barry, that really, they just bugged me. And this is one of them. Maybe me being annoyed by a story like this is misplaced. I'll leave that up to the listeners and up to you. But there was a news report this week. It said Veterans Affairs is telling MPs that they'll be limited to 2 Remembrance Day wreaths per riding for Remembrance Week. Veterans Affairs provides MPs with wreaths to lay at Remembrance Day ceremonies at cenotaphs. Now it's going to be 2 per riding for the MPs. If more are needed, the MP will have to cover the costs themselves. I guess maybe an office budget or whatnot. It's not unusual. Some ridings are huge. It's not unusual for some MPs to need, a dozen or more wreaths for cenotaphs and ceremonies across various communities in their ridings. What do you think of that decision?
Well, I'm the son of a World War II veteran, so I have to contain myself when I hear that. Let's put it this way. If veterans aren't the top of your mind of concern, appreciation, empathy, and all those wonderful values that we hold dear and were fought for on behalf of Canadians, if you can't afford a handful of wreaths to commemorate them, then I don't know what your priorities are. I think it's an appalling owned goal, as they say in soccer. This is a terrible thing to consider. It didn't stop them from giving hundreds of King Charles III medals, complete with all of that beautiful craft work that was done and the printed documents that go with it. If that wasn't $100 and some each, I'd be amazed. They had hundreds of them to dole out, and we can't even get 12 wreaths for an MP. It's appalling. And you are so right. They haven't been out in the ridings, obviously, to say, do you realize when you go to Saskatchewan, you go to these provinces, like, oh my God, get in your car in the morning, and you might get all the way to the end of that by the end of the day when you drop into your constituency offices. I mean, and even the large urban centers don't have just one. So I find it really penny-wise and pound foolish.
Oh, I totally agree. I think of a riding. Like Pontiac, the riding I live in is a massive riding. Like the MP for the riding of Pontiac, which is in West Quebec. I mean, there must be 50 municipalities with cenotaphs, and it would be expected that the MP would have a wreath to lay at every single one of them that says Canada on it.
Yeah.
Now they're only going to, have two, or they would have to buy more. Look, my experience is, and we've seen political blowback on this before, Canadians do not like it when their government is seen to be shortchanging veterans or anything to do with remembrance. You will remember the grief that the Harper government got for closing Veterans Affairs offices. Under the excuse of it, well, these were little used offices and people can go drive a little bit. No. The blowback from that was enormous. And I would encourage the government. I would encourage the minister. Yeah. Please revisit this at a time when I get it. The government is looking to tighten its belt or whatever. I mean, we're talking about Remembrance Day reads here. It's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I mean, we go back to Communications 101. What message are you sending with this action? Okay, what's the message? And for government, you might save, I don't know, you can add it all up, who knows, but you might save, let's say you saved $1 million. Maybe they got it, maybe that's true. I don't know. If they save $1 million, but what is the cost to the credibility, the impact, you have to earn empathy and respect and appreciation over quite a number of years. It can be gone in a flash. Exactly. And I think when Mark Carney sees this, when he puts his eyes on this, I doubt very much he will proceed with this. It would just shock me if he did, because then it proves that you're kind of tin-eared. You're not getting it. Yeah. And so far, Mark Carney's kind of seen somebody who kind of gets it. I hate to lose it on this one. Yeah. This isn't right. And
no, I'm with you. So far, like previous prime ministers, especially Stephen Harper, I think Mark Carney does believe in the nation's symbols. And I think he views them as important to the country, as rallying points for such a diverse country. And I think this is one where he may need to make a phone call to the Veterans Affairs Minister and saying, about that.
Yeah,
okay.
especially at this time when our even our status as a country is in question. I mean, I think it's really important not to do this.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Bye-bye.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Well, he's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski back with us, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Great to hear from you again, Tom.
Well, thank you, Rob.
I was mentioning to my friend Barry McLoughlin there were some stories in the news this week that really bugged me. This one might top the list. Okay. Let me just read a little bit here. Quebec Senator Amina Gerber traveled to Vancouver with her husband for 2 20-hour English courses at a total cost of nearly $22,000. The trips in July of 2023 and 2024 fell within the rules of Senate travel and were reimbursed. They paid for them, and then the Senate reimbursed them. Gerber and her husband took courses, tuition costing $1,500 each time. Travel expenses, including hotel, business class airfare, of course, business class, of course. Daily allowances for the 6-day trips cost more than $9,000 in the first year and more than $9,700, almost $9,800 in the second. Gerber represents the Rigaud division in Quebec. Not available for an interview. Yeah, no kidding. Total abuse of funds. Total abuse of funds, in my opinion. What do you think, Tom?
Yes, you sightseeing. And, of course, only losers fly economy. You know that, Rob. You know, it's interesting. This is just based on my experience in the Senate. Is slightly more complicated and yet not so. There's about, my count, about 30% of senators are real workhorses. They have saved the taxpayers a fortune, millions. They work very hard at their job. That's about 30%. And then there's about 50% who are generally harmless and are go along, get along kind of people. They're not going to rock the boat. They will not ever raise a fuss about anything in particular. And they are eminently forgettable. And then there's 20%. Come on down. This senator from Quebec, I will say a senator of very modest contributions. And there are the 20% who see the appointment to the Senate as being really a perpetual winner on a game show. Lots of junkets. My favorite is there's another Quebec senator, Galvez, who has embraced the climate change program so enthusiastically. She has flown to Morocco and to Brazil. She's attended climate conferences at Monaco in the French Riviera. They never have these in Flint, Michigan. They always have them in the loveliest places. And it's a game show, Rob, and there's nothing, there's no one to say stop it.
First of all, I don't buy for a minute that she even needs English language training at all. Okay? I don't buy this. This is not deepest, darkest Quebec. Okay? This is not Trois-Rivières. This is not Val-d'Or. This is not Rouyn-Noranda. Okay? Where you will find a lot of unilingual francophones. This is Rigaud. Okay? What is that, Tom? An hour from Montreal? Maybe 90 minutes from Ottawa? You're telling me they don't speak English there? Give me a break. I know for a fact that they do. Here's what bothers me the most. Flying to Vancouver, business class, with your husband, okay, to learn English, to take English language training. Language training is available to all parliamentarians in Ottawa for free. You don't have to go to Vancouver. Okay, there's a beautiful building, heritage building, right behind the Basilica in Ottawa. You can see the Peace Tower from there. It must be, a block and a half away? It's called the Canada School of Public Service. That's where they train public servants. And what are the courses they offer? French as a second language and English as a second language. They do it for rank and file members of the public service, and they will do it for parliamentarians. MPs from Saskatchewan who want to learn French, you can go to the CSPS, and they'll teach you how to learn French. But yet we have a senator who is jetting off to Vancouver with her husband on a $22,000 junket, supposedly to take English lessons. It just really pees me off. That's all I can really say about it. It's just a total waste of money. It's not going to break the bank. $22,000 is not going to break the bank.
No, that's money. That's money. But Rob, there's a piece missing when you go to the Canada School of Public Service and take their free lessons in a cubicle. It's the coastal mountains. There's a takeaway here, and I know this is a tangent, but it's profound in its own way. There's a 200 square mile area. This has been this way in this country for 158 years. It's Toronto, and it's Montreal, and it's Ottawa. 200 square mile area around the Great Lake area. And that is their world, and that's who this senator is. She wanted to go to Vancouver with her husband because she'd never seen the coastal mountains before. How is that possible? I think she's from Cameroon. She'd never seen the country before, but considers herself a national legislator, and of course, as we've discussed, only losers pay their own way.
Yeah, I would just point out for the uninitiated, in your nation's capital, anything to do with language training, anything to do with translation, huge business in Ottawa. Huge. Like there are mansions in Rockcliffe Park that have been built on the business of language training and translation. Take my word for it. It's a big business. Ottawa's an officially bilingual city. You don't have to go to Vancouver to learn English. The government will pay for you, pay for it, but you could do it right in your own backyard. It's ridiculous. Okay, there's lots more news we want to get to. Thank you for letting me rant. I feel better now, Tom. Be right back with Tom Korski, managing editor, Blacklock's reporter on News Radio.
You have questions
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
Back with Tom Korski, the managing editor at Blacklock's reporter. In the east end of the nation's capital, there's an old library building there. National Science Library building. And they're going to renovate it for the National Research Council. How much is that going to cost?
About $46 million. It's a 4-year project.
$46 million.
You know, this is curious because the budget office says we have a deficit crisis, and the Prime Minister says we have a housing crisis. And in fact, the last 2 Prime Ministers have issued numerous directives to federal managers. If you have vacant Crown property, including undeveloped land, or buildings you aren't using, for heaven's sake, convert them to public housing, because we have a housing crisis. But the president of the National Research Council did not get that memo, and they came up with this plan. And it is really something, Rob. Have you ever worked at a place, for instance, that had an atrium, a staff gymnasium, wellness rooms, not sure what that is, Muslim prayer room, a food court, and an executive suite for the president with his own bathroom? $46 million.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Going to be a heck of a library when it's done.
It's not just a workplace, Rob. It's to, as they put it in a notice to contractors, it's to elevate the overall workplace experience and support employee well-being. End of quote.
Yeah. For the employees that are actually going into the office 3 days a week these days. Okay. Yeah. Partitions and doors, $4.7 million. Partitions and doors, $4.7 million. Finishes, $2.9 million. Fittings, $1.2 million. Ancillary, I love that. Just ancillary, a nice round number of $1 million. It's just beyond.
And National Research Council, they're famous. They have a climate energy building, God bless them, in Mississauga, Ontario, and they just had a $77 million refit with this is everyone's workplace: a rooftop sun lounge, splash pad, and Brazilian walnut benches for work relaxation.
Wow!
Not just a pine bench, a Brazilian walnut bench.
Oh wow! Only the best will do, I guess. We want to keep them happy. Okay. Well, speaking of the government's finances, the parliamentary budget officer continues his tour of parliamentary committees. He was before the Banking Finance Committee of the Senate?
Senate Banking Committee, that's right. And National Finance, yes.
Okay. I believe, Curtis, you can pull up a clip, please, of the parliamentary budget officer and some of his testimony to that committee, please. Let's listen to
this. The challenge for the federal government was that in the current environment, they need to put their foot on the brake and the gas at the same time, and hold on to the steering wheel and make sure that they're able to maintain control of the car. And I would say over the past 30 years, it's an exceptionally challenging, probably potentially the most challenging fiscal situation for any government, because in the past, when they have faced challenges.
That's good, Curtis. Thank you. So they're trying to avert a car wreck, basically, here with the government's finances. Good luck to them, Tom. What do you think?
Exactly. That's the accountant walking into the shop as you're relaxing on your Brazilian walnut lounge. And he says, you should know, how are things going? And he says, well, look at it this way. You're traveling very fast down a narrow path, gripping the wheel, and pounding the brake and the gas at the same time. Hopefully, it'll all work out. This is the Government of Canada finances in 2025. They are so deep in the hole they can't see sunlight, Rob.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left here. This is a very interesting thing that you've dug up at Blacklock's, going deep into the archives. Did Canada have its own version of what I would call McCarthyism back in the 50s? What were we doing in this country?
Well, they had a kind of a witch hunt, but it was looking for witches on vacation. This is, forgive my language, the damnedest thing we've ever seen. These are old RCMP security files. The service was disbanded in 1984 for illegal activities, but they came up with some dandies, and this was one For almost 20 years, starting in 1955, they kept an updated list of what they called potential communist hideouts in all provinces from BC to the Atlantic except for Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. What was a potential communist hideout? Well, that could be a rural motel if the owner's wife had once belonged to the Communist Youth League, or hilariously, in one case in BC, it could be a property that's suspiciously remote. They found a cabin at Quesnel Lake that was very isolated, they wrote in a secret memo, a 20-mile boat ride up the lake. Oh, by the way, cabins where hippies used to play guitars and talk about world peace. You are so on that blacklist. A blacklist of properties.
Isn't that something? Okay. Are we going to have a climate corps, a youth climate corps?
Yeah, no one knows what that is. The Prime Minister promised it during the election, but as a sort of a giveaway $25 million pilot project over 2 years, environmental groups have seized on that. They are petitioning the dickens out of the Commons Finance Committee. They want $1 billion a year. $1 billion, go big or go home. They want $1 billion a year for Youth Climate Corps. What are these kids going to do? Okay, they're going to fill sandbags. They're going to learn how to install, solar panels. But the main thing is climate, Rob. When you use the word climate, cost is no option, really.
Yeah, $1 billion for a climate corps. A story you can read at blacklocks.ca if you're a subscriber. I am. It's worth every penny. Encourage you to become a subscriber, too. You can hear Tom with us every Friday. Thanks for today. Good to hear from you.
Thank you, Rob. You too.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend. From Blacklock's reporter, Tom Korski. Minding Ottawa's business. Aren't you glad somebody is? Be right back on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
If you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow. Great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R, and it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. Now You Know with Rob Snow, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, made it to Friday. That means the wait is almost over for Jays fans because it's all settled. And it will be the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees versus the Toronto Blue Jays, American League Divisional Series. The two clubs ended the regular season with the exact same record, but the Jays won the division because they won the season series against the Yankees. So that means the Jays have home field advantage. Back-to-back games this weekend. My mood for the entire weekend will be dependent on the outcome of these two games. Both games at 4 o'clock Eastern in Toronto on Sportsnet, on the Jays radio network, including the station you're listening to right now. Game 3 in New York at Yankee Stadium. Of course, Game 4, if necessary, would also be in New York. If a deciding Game 5, best of 5 series, if deciding Game 5 is needed, the Jays would be back at home in Toronto. So the Yankees moved on last night after winning the final 2 games, of the best of 3 wildcard series over the Boston Red Sox. Last night's final score 4-0 over the Red Sox. As for who might be on the mound, John Schneider's just announced it's going to be Kevin Gausman starting for the Jays tomorrow. Now, statistically, the Yankees would seem to have the slight edge in offense. They scored an average of 5.2 runs per game this season. The Jays scored an average of 4.9 runs per game. The Yankees also hit more home runs. They also had more extra base hits. As for team ERA for pitching, it's about 4 runs per game for both teams, 4.02 for the Yankees, 4.2 for the Jays. Errors per game. Yankees committed more errors than the Jays this season, and the Jays turned more double plays. Relief pitching, the Yankees bullpen outperformed the Blue Jays this season. Better ERA, more strikeouts, and fewer blown saves. As for how things went during the regular season, these two teams played each other 13 times during the regular season. The Jays won 8, they lost 5, And you may remember back in late June, early July, the Jays had that 4-game sweep at Rogers Center over the Yankees, and that was the series that actually vaulted the Jays into first place. Again, start time tomorrow and on Sunday, 4:08 Eastern Time, first pitch on Sportsnet. Now, as for all the other series in the American League, Detroit took down Cleveland, moves on to face Seattle. In the National League, LA versus Philly, Cubs versus Brewers. Football, very briefly, great game last night in the National Football League. Needed overtime. And in the end, the Rams couldn't move the ball on 4th and short. Turned it over on downs. They lose to the 49ers 26-23. Notable Week 5 Sunday matches include the Broncos against the undefeated Eagles. Go Broncos. Bucks and Seahawks, both 3-1. And the Monday Nighter has the Chiefs and Jaguars. And the Jaguars actually sport the better record for a change. Chiefs are 2-2. Jaguars are 3-1 to start the season. CFL action tonight. First place Saskatchewan Roughriders meeting the duds of the league this season, my Ottawa Redblacks. That's in Ottawa tonight. Pair of games tomorrow. Ticats and Argos are the afternoon game. And the evening game, Stamps in BC. Friday free-for-all Talkback is coming up right after the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talk Back. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today's a Friday free-for-all. Our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics on Fridays. We have some topics, but we'd rather you came up with the topics. We usually like to leave that job up to you on Fridays. So what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, there's always news. There was lots of news this week. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, you feel free to raise it here. Whatever it happens to be. It can be serious. It can be not so serious. Every single phone line is available right now. Wait won't be too long. Our phone lines are open at 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. I always have some conversation starters. Just consider them that, conversation starters and nothing more. I would like to ask you about pipelines. What do you think about Alberta Premier Danielle Smith having her government fund an application to try and get the federal government to approve an oil pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast? What do you think of that? Application would be sent to this new National Projects Office. What do you think is going to happen with that? What's your gut feeling? What's going to happen with that? And what do you think the reaction will be or should be from Alberta if the answer from the Carney government is no to a pipeline to BC? How should Alberta react to that? And how do you think Alberta would react to that if the answer from the Carney government on an oil pipeline from northern Alberta, northern British Columbia, what if the answer is no? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. A very important story this week. We have yet to talk about that this week on Talkback. I would love to dig deep into that with you, if you would like. Because the Alberta Premier is basically saying to the Carney Liberals in Ottawa, you left the pipeline off the first list of projects in the national interest. We still think it's in the national interest, and we're still going to push for one, and we're basically going to dare you to say no. What if it's a no? Give that some thought. Give us a call, 1-833-668-2577. One of many things we can talk about. There is more Friday news about Canada Post. It seems on Fridays is when the news breaks about Canada Post. The workers at Canada Post, of course, still on strike. The mail still not moving. Have you noticed? Some will have noticed. Many others will have not noticed. But the management at Canada Post has tabled what it is calling its best and basically final offer to these workers who are on strike at Canada Post. Now, remember, this is an insolvent company that has been bailed out by taxpayers to the tune of more than $1 billion. That's the only reason Canada Post is in business when it's actually open for business. But here is what the management says it's now offering to the workers of this failing business: a raise of 13.59% over the next 4 years. Canada Post is offering more to its workers than the Alberta government is offering to its teachers, 13.59% over the next 4 years. Raises at an insolvent company. Very curious. It says everything else would stay the same. Nothing would happen to your pension, which I would note is a defined benefit pension plan, which is almost unheard of in the modern workforce or at any other large company. Defined benefit. If there's a company pension plan at all, it's usually defined contribution. The defined benefit plan is viewed as superior. Same with health benefits. Same with vacation benefits, up to 7 weeks. For long tenured workers, I would imagine you'd have to work there 25 years to get 7 weeks off. But also a cost of living allowance, which is another perk that a lot of workers don't get, COLA payments. But this is what the management wants in return. And this is big news. This is big news. It wants to be able to hire more part-time workers. They would get the benefits and enrolled in the pension plan too, and guaranteed hours, but they'd be part-time. They want to expand community mailbox as per the government's instructions, close more rural post offices because the management says many of those post offices, they're not in rural areas anymore. There's been so much growth in Canada. Those areas are suburban now. They don't need post offices. And it wants to do what it is calling a quote-unquote workforce adjustment. What does a workforce adjustment mean? That means job cuts. Job cuts. Quoting right here from Canada Post management in a statement sent to the news media, as a temporary measure, during the transformation, the corporation cannot maintain its existing job security for life provisions for employees, which require the company to continue to provide full pay to an employee until they decide to leave, even if there is no work for them. I didn't know that, but they want to get rid of that, at least temporarily. It also says Canada Post is proposing a transparent workforce adjustment process that includes 6 months' notice to the union, a period of consultation with the union, and voluntary incentives of up to 78 weeks base pay, that's a year and a half pay, and seniority-based bidding and bumping, whatever that means. Layoffs will only be used if other measures, including attrition and departure incentives, prove insufficient to achieve reduction targets. Laid-off employees would retain recall rights for 2 years and continue to accrue seniority. That's from Canada Post. Basically, what does that mean? Canada Post wants to start buying people out. Canada Post wants to start buying people out. What do you think of that? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And let's get it going, okay? Friday Free for All Talkback. Help me get into the weekend here. I've had a rough week. I'm TGIF today. This is Talkback. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday Free for All. Let's get things going with Halifax. Up first, Eric. Hi, Eric. You're on the air. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how's it going today, Tom? God, it got thought on my mind. How's it going today, Rob?
Well, I mean, this is the third time you've called, and you just can't get my name right. So, let's try and get the name right from now on, Eric. All right, it's Rob here, buddy. All right.
I'm so used to talking to Todd on the other station. Anyway, I'm going to give you some baseball projections. 5 games for the Yanks and the Blue Jays. The Yanks will try to pull one out in Toronto. Toronto will try to pull one out in New York, and it'll come down to the 5th game. And God forbid, I think Toronto will end up pulling it out. In the Seattle series, Seattle will have an easy time with Detroit. It'll be a cakewalk for Seattle. The Brewers will handle the Cubs. Better be a cakewalk. And the Dodgers in Philadelphia will be a barn burner. That can go either way. And I like your Ottawa Renegades. I've been watching them all year, and I'll tell you, they're never out of a game. And I think they still got a shot at making the playoffs.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Think so?
No,
on,
no.
Rob,
I mean, they're pretty. No, look. They should have had a good season. It's, the way it is, injuries. If you look at the standings, the teams that have really struggled. If you look at the standings, the teams that have really struggled in the Canadian Football League this year are the teams that lost their quarterback for a while. The teams that have had their starting quarterback for the whole season are the teams that have done well. Like Hamilton has had their starting quarterback there all season. Like Saskatchewan has had their quarterback all season. You can't say the same for Montreal. You can't say the same for Ottawa. You can't say the same for Winnipeg. It's a quarterback-driven league. You lose your quarterback, you're not going to go very far. It's the way it is in that league.
Winnipeg owes the fans a Grey Cup. The Grey Cup's being held in Winnipeg this year.
Yeah.
And Oliveira, he cried there a couple of months ago, give me the ball, give me the ball. That's all he kept on saying. Well, they gave him the ball. He never did nothing. So, I mean, home field advantage gives you a good boost. And, hey, sports is funny. I mean, theoretically,
I know. Yeah, you never know. But I would say whoever comes out of the West is going to win. If Calgary comes out of the West, I would say Calgary's going to win. And I think if Saskatchewan comes out of the West, Saskatchewan is going to win. I think it's going to be one of those two teams.
Well, Saskatchewan had the best record in the CFL.
Oh, yeah.
So,
they've been the class of the league. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're picking the Jays in 5, though.
Projection, Florida
Jays in 5.
will win the Stanley Cup in the NHL.
Who's going to win the Stanley Cup in the NHL? Oh, I don't know. That's way too early to determine that. Florida? I don't know. Three-peat?
They're the top in their class. I mean, they're in a class all by themselves.
Well, we'll see. They got to play some games first before I can make a determination there. Thank you, Eric. I got to move along. A lot of calls to get to today. Hickey in Calgary up next. Hickey. Hi, Hickey.
Hey, just wanted to say, we could talk about everything that you talked about, Canada Post and everything else, but I think with these bailouts that are happening for softwood lumber and for steel and for everything, we need to have a subsidized program where, there's a lot of cities out there that need steel to replace bridges and stuff like that. And if we're going to do these bailouts, we need to have some sort of a program where if the government's going to give them $1.5 billion, then we should at least be able to buy products that are at a discounted rate for Canadian manufacturers.
Okay. How would something like that work? Run that by me.
Well, literally, softwood lumber. I mean, we need to build more houses than you can ever imagine.
Right.
We need steel for all the infrastructure. What does that look like for builders to say, hey, I'm going to build X amount of houses? Well, if you go through this government program, because the government's already subsidized them by $2 billion, you get, 10% below cost based on the fact that's going to increase the sales and the government's making up the difference. So that's going to help us. It's internal thinking. Here in Calgary, we have this big blue ring that we spent $600,000 on from Germany. We could have got AU Arts, one of the schools, to do it. One other example is you talked about the EI, OAS, and CPP website that's at $7.7 billion on a $1.2 billion budget. Yeah. Let's get that out to a couple universities where the university students are working with a couple professionals, but they put this thing together. We could probably have a kid put this thing together for $100,000. And I mean, we're going to be over $10 billion by the time it's done.
It won't be done until 2030, that particular project. Yeah, it's good you're paying attention. But take, for example, The government just gave a loan, quote unquote, to I think it was Algoma, $500 million.
Yes.
Algoma Steel, right? So you're saying,
Yes.
if they're doing whatever light rail in Calgary and it needs steel, then Calgary should get a discount on steel, maybe from Algoma, because Algoma's getting $500 million from the government, something like that.
Exactly, because
exactly.
Yeah,
okay.
if we have that program where it's a little bit less, then what's going to happen is we're going to encourage those places in Canada to purchase it quicker and to maybe move some of the projects along that the cost is really the differentiator with when they're going to start the project.
Okay. Thank you, Hickey. Great idea. Be right back. I'm Rob Snow. Friday Free for All Talkback. You take the lead today. Join in the discussion or start one of your own. That's how we roll. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday Free for All today. Dave in Halifax. Hi, Dave. You're up next, Dave. Go
Hey,
ahead.
Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Very good, Dave. Yep. What's on your mind?
Excellent, sir. Listen, man, I love all this stuff. We should talk about the key points from the farmers to the laborers. We keep supplementing everything. You shove a spoon in someone's mouth, they're going to expect that spoon again and again. The laborers' unions in town, they're making the same month or $20 an hour or less here building high rises than they are in Ontario. The farmers, I love the farmers. We all love the farmers. They keep supplementing. And you know what happens? Is they keep waiting for that spoon to get fed every year. It's time to adapt.
Okay.
We have to move forward.
Okay. Well, in terms of, you say we subsidize our farmers. I think there are a lot of farmers who would disagree with that. Now in Canada, we have what's known as supply management, in dairy and eggs and in poultry. So we pay more for that in order to protect the Canadian market for Canadian farmers. We pay more for that. We keep out, foreign competition, but that's not a subsidy. It's more it's protectionism. It's not necessarily a subsidy.
It's a subsidy. Call one dairy farmer can call in and he'll tell you that they piss more freaking milk down the drain than they send out.
Again, I wouldn't call it a subsidy. I would call it protectionism because it's mandated by high tariffs is the driving thing there. It's a protectionist measure is what it is.
Well,
it may be coming to an end.
Let's have a dairy farmer call it and let him have
well, if I had a dairy farmer call me, I think he would say, the dairy farmer would say it's not a subsidy.
It's a subsidy. And they threw
you might say that. Okay, I'll make an appeal if a dairy farmer wants to call me and admit that they're subsidized, by all means. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Anything else?
Nope,
you want to argue about? That's about it? Okay, all right.
The union. Why is the union? Why are the guys that are working on high-rise buildings here forming concrete making $20 an hour less than what they make in Toronto? That's a good one.
Well,
and it's the same
okay.
union.
Well, maybe you should take that up with the union leadership.
If you're working for LiUNA, 183 in Toronto, you're just shy of $50 an hour. But the same guys, the same color of skin, the same sweat, are making $20 an hour less. That's a good one. How about that?
Okay. All right. You've raised it. Much more expensive to live in Toronto. Much more expensive to live in Toronto, though. You know that.
Doesn't matter. No, it's not. The rent's not.
Oh, sure it is. Sure it is.
No, it's not. I just got here last month, and I don't see anything that you think is $2,300 an hour.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. Yep. Good. We could fit you in. 1-833-668-2577. Are we stopping, Curtis? Yeah, I guess we're stopping, eh? All right. For the latest breaking news coming up next. And then if you're on hold, just stay on the line. Be with you in just a few minutes. And we'll get right back into it on Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right back to our phone lines on the Friday Free for All Talkback with first-time caller Scott in Calgary. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
So, with our premier here in Alberta, for her to do this pipeline, she has two things that have to happen first. Get the approval from David Eadie in BC, which was surprised that she announced this, and then the cargo ban that's on the West Coast. And I think if she can get those two things passed, then presented it to the federal government, and then if they said no, then there's an issue. But there's two big issues here, and even the CEO of Enbridge said no pipeline company is going to build a pipeline to go nowhere without those two things in the mix.
Well, first of all, on the opposition from David Eby, who cares what David Eby has to say? We've been here before, okay? If the Prime Minister has a backbone, there's really nothing in the Constitution that BC can do to stop a pipeline. This has been fought in court before. It was fought over Northern Gateway, over whether provincial governments can block pipelines. And the courts have ruled unanimously they can't block pipelines because pipelines cross interprovincial borders. And the moment that happens, that means it's the federal government that calls the shots. So David Eby's opposition is vocal, but basically meaningless. But this is where the politics comes in. That's the policy, but it's about the politics of it as well. Now, you're right about the Enbridge CEO. He is saying basically two things have to happen. You have to lift the emissions cap, and you have to get rid of the tanker ban on the West Coast. Those are two pieces of legislation. Will Carney play ball on that? I don't know.
But yeah, it's but with the pipeline that was proposed at one point to go through Quebec has said no forever and ever.
Yeah. And again, this comes down to leadership. And in that case, spineless leadership. In that case, it was the Trudeau government being afraid to lose votes in Quebec. This is where the politics come into it as well. Look at where the Liberals win seats, right? There are 37 ridings in Alberta. The Liberals hold two of them. You've got what's his name in Calgary and what's her name in Edmonton. And they're not part of Mark Carney's inner circle. Where did the Liberals do well? In the last election, they gained seats in Quebec, and they picked up seats in BC as well because of the collapse of the NDP. Right? Would they sacrifice seats in BC and Quebec to satisfy Alberta on a pipeline? Politically, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. Economically, it would, but politically, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Oh, I don't think it's tough. I don't think it's tough at all if the Prime Minister shows some leadership. Look, he's flying all over the world, okay, telling us how important these trips are because we have to pivot away from the United States. Here we have our most valuable export commodity, oil, and it's not even close. And we're sending 93% of it to one place, the United States. Right. It's the poster child for trade diversification. How can he be opposed to that? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, just have to get all the ducks in a row. And then the other thing is I would really like to see Carney invite Poilievre to one of these trade talks with Trump.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Hold your breath. Yeah, it might be interesting, but it's never going to happen. Politics is the art of the possible, but I think that might be beyond the realm of possibility. Scott, I thank you for your call today. Let's stay in Calgary and take Kyle's call. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Kyle. Thank you. What's on your mind?
I'd like to talk about the double standards that people in the trade see, especially when it comes to getting a raises or if there's a need for labor in the particular field. It seems like any time that we need more electricians or plumbers or name the trade, it seems like the politician or whoever's answer is, let's just make it easier for out-of-country workers to come in and assume these roles, and anytime that nurses, doctors, what have you, are in labor shortages, to incentivize these people, they offer them more money. I would just like to point out that it seems like anytime tradespeople are in need, we just try to make it easier to get more workers in there instead of getting quality workers.
Okay. Well, I think what we're hearing from provincial governments specifically when it comes to the trades is that there's a tremendous shortage of tradespeople. Is that not true?
Yes.
Yes.
So wouldn't it be more... wouldn't it
you
be
think it would make
easier
more sense to maybe offer higher wages to attract people to the profession? Is that what you're saying?
Wages,
okay.
Benefits, all the things that people in white-collar industries typically get.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Okay. And do you think because foreign labor is coming in and getting jobs in the trades that's suppressing your wages? I don't know if that's the case or not. You think it is,
I would
though?
say so. Yeah, I'd say
you
the
would
people
say so?
coming in are willing.
Okay.
Yeah, they're willing to work for a lower wage.
Okay. Do they not have to be in a union? Do they not have to get a union wage?
No.
No? No? Are you in a union?
I'm not in a union, no.
Not in a union. Okay. All right. Okay. Hard one. I don't know the answers to that, sir. I haven't really dug into that very much, but it's out there as a topic of discussion. Maybe some other people will call in. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. We'll go wherever you want to take us today. It's the Friday Free for All Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It sure is. Friday Free for All Talkback, as a matter of fact. Nick, up next, first-time caller. Hi, Nick.
Yeah. Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Very good, Nick. What's up?
Good. I was just wondering if you've heard, and if not, what your opinion is of. This is completely off topic, but the drone spottings across like Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands. They're closing down airports. Closed down the Munich airport the other night. Vladimir Putin. I mean, we can only take his word for a grain of salt, obviously, but he was asked directly about it. Said it wasn't.
Okay, what
him.
did he say?
He made like a offhand comment saying it was him, but then later on said no, it wasn't. And he implied it was the USA doing surveillance. And then if we look at a year ago when all of the ones that popped up in New Jersey, nothing happened, no one shot anything down. And then the ones over Denmark and Germany, they're not shooting them down. The one in Germany, they said there was a mothership that had that dropped off drones. This is coming from like the government. And then France also recently took over a Russian oil tanker that they are saying is part of a shadow fleet, and not a shadow fleet that's selling oil, but a shadow fleet that is setting these drones out and about, I guess.
Okay. You know a lot more about it than I do. I mean, I see those stories. I really only read the headline. I don't really go in depth because there's so much news I have to consume in the run of a day. You seem to know a lot more about it than me. But what do you think is going on? Do you? I mean, the obvious thing would be the Russians are up to no good and trying to sow chaos. That would be my conclusion. That's
my conclusion as well. I think unless it is the states doing their own type of surveillance, but I don't know. We can't trust the Trump administration with anything. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up and see if you've heard much about it and just put it out there because it's something that I do think we should be concerned about. If it is Russia, we are very close to them on one side, and they care, or one side of the country, and they also really care about the Arctic Ocean. So, maybe it's something we need to be a little concerned about.
With those drones that were in the United States, when was that? Late last year, I think that was happening. The drones,
it was around the same time. Yep.
Did they ever figure out what those were? Because that was like all over the news for a while. Nothing really ever came of that.
Said he would come out and would tell us exactly what it was, and he never did. People they call them drones now. They don't call them UAPs, but they're still not shooting them down, and they are coming up again right now in New Jersey and such, just like last year, as well as in Europe. So.
Wow. Okay.
It's just very interesting.
I better start paying attention to that.
Yeah,
I'll be paying closer attention to that.
That it could make a big difference in how world politics and wars play about in the future. So
absolutely.
Just to think about.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Nick.
Cool, Rob.
Nick,
Thank
following
you,
the drone
nice
situation. Yeah, you too. Have a great weekend. Let's go to Karen's up next. Hi, Karen. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Rob, just driving in the beautiful Rocky Mountains right now.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah, got a point about Danielle Smith. If everybody thinks she's so mean, why is she collecting mail and delivering it on behalf of Albertans to places it needs to go? You can drop your mail off at the provincial buildings, and it will be going. Obviously.
Oh, I think we lost Karen, who's driving through the Rocky Mountains. Let's move along. We got time for another one here. Let's go to Halifax and take Tyler's call in Halifax. Hello, Tyler.
Hey, Rob. I hope your rough week gets a little better over the weekend when you're watching the Jays. Although, as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I'm going to suggest you don't put too much heart into it.
Okay. Well, I've got a Leafs jersey hanging. A Leafs jersey? No, I would never own a Leafs jersey. A Jays jersey. That I don't know where that came from. Jay's jersey that I actually bought at Rogers Center. I was there like many years ago when, Bautista was still playing for the club back then. Went to a few games with my dad way back in the day. So I'd be dusting that off and wearing that this weekend and cheering for the Jays. So
excellent. And you're on the radio, so you can wear the face paint all you want too.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
I got a quick joke for you, and then I'll get to my point. What do you call a cow with 2 legs?
What do you call a cow with 2 legs? I don't know. This is a clean joke.
That's lean beef. Yeah, it's lean beef. Yeah. And what do you call a cow with no legs?
Cow with no legs. Don't know.
Oh, that's ground beef right there. So just wanted to lighten your mood a little bit there on the Friday here. Rob,
that's a good one. I've never heard that one before. Okay.
Oh, excellent. Well, you're welcome to use that anytime. It's AAA rated. So.
Okay. All right. We only have a minute or so. Let's get right to it here.
Yeah, you got your pulse on the prevailing sort of sentiment of people in all of Canada, but in your local jurisdictions as well. You talk to a lot of people, you hear a lot of experts, and you exemplify debate and sort of rigorous conversation. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on there's the Canada Post and the war in Ukraine and all this stuff going on right now, and we're putting money absolutely everywhere. What are your thoughts on perhaps a consolidated bipartisan committee that maybe addresses their findings to say somebody a little bit more impartial, Governor General, I don't know, Auditor General, what it might be, for the way that we're currently spending our money. We're talking about buying out unionized postal workers, and essentially that's going to be a tax bailout. We've been bailing out the Canada Post for a long time. We're still sending money over to Ukraine and to places all over the world. We, as Canadians, in our foreign.
Okay. I understand. I understand what you're saying. Let me give you a quick answer. Right now, I would say, Mr. Carney, while maybe a little bit of the shine is off, I really do think Canadians are going to are willing to play a bit of a waiting game a little bit longer with Mr. Carney. They have trust in Mr. Carney and his credentials and his experience in economics and his global connections. So I think he has a lot of political capital to expend right now, and I don't think he's going to spend any of that political capital giving anything over to the opposition. I think whatever wins come for him, he hopes will be good for the country, but he also hopes will be good for his own political fortunes. That's what I would say.
Right? But if we have a bipartisan committee, maybe it led up with
it's not going to happen. There's two. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'll have to wrap it up there. Thank you. I got to go. Bye-bye. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I think we're going to Emerson next on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hello, Emerson.
Hi, thank you, Rob. Always nice to talk to you. Rob, I don't know if you heard this morning, Willie Mitchell used to play for the Vancouver Canucks. He's being sued by a woman because back in 2010, they met for drinks in Tofino in a resort. She's claiming he got her all drunk and then sexually assaulted her. That matter was extensively investigated by the RCMP, and there was no grounds for criminal charges. But I guess what my question is, what happened to the statute of limitations? It's supposed to be 2 years from the date of the incident. We're talking some almost 15 years later, she decides that she's going to sue the resort. She's going to sue Willie Mitchell.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
But it's civil, though.
As a man,
it must be different.
Yeah.
But Emerson, like you're talking about statute of limitations, which would apply to a criminal proceeding, right? Would apply to a criminal proceeding.
In civil, it's 2 years limitation period. If you have a car accident, for example, you've got 2 years to sue the other insurance company from the date of the accident.
You would know better than me, I guess.
Unless she's saying that something else took place, and that, but of course, we're not going to hear that till it goes to court. But what I'm saying is, as a man, you're almost terrified to meet anybody anymore in a hotel, have a few drinks, and something happens. Then, especially if you have a reputation, somebody high profile, it seems to me she's dialing for dollars. Maybe that's what this is all about. Because you know what I mean? I'm just wondering, it's kind of scary, and I just wanted to put it out there. These hockey players have to be a little bit more prudent. I think they got to start taking a little bit more safeguards when meeting people, especially because they travel on the road quite extensively. So I just wanted to put that out there. As a man, you gotta be careful these days. You can't just trust anybody, especially if you got a couple of dollars to your name. Have a nice weekend and happy Thanksgiving next week.
All right, Emerson. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. All right. Yep, that's it for hour number one, and we have freed the phone lines. So we fit everybody in the first hour. That was great. Full hour just ahead, though, and a brand new set of phone lines for you. Maybe some new topics as well. Just conversation starters. Get the conversation going. But you can start a conversation of your own because it's Friday, and that's kind of how we roll. The latest breaking news coming up next. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number two of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. It's our Friday free-for-all today, so we are wide open on topics. You take the conversation wherever you want to go. I will do my best to follow along. We usually take a lot of calls from Alberta in this hour of our Talkback. I mean, for our friends in Alberta, let's face it, this could be the last day of school for a while. What do you think of the idea of the teachers going on strike on Monday? I know we talked about that a couple of days ago, teachers. We talked about it more big picture, being a teacher, more generally, because the teachers in Alberta have the same gripes that teachers all across Canada have. But if this does happen on Monday, I mean, this is going to be a mother of a strike. I mean, you're talking 51,000 teachers across 1,500 schools, 700,000 students out of class. The government has maintained, Premier Smith has maintained, she's given the teachers two good offers. Pay raises of 12% over 4 years, has promised to hire 3,000 more teachers and 1,500 more EAs. The union has said it's not enough money and it's not enough teachers. Need 5,000 teachers, not 3,000. And the pay raise is not enough. It's because inflation has gone up so much. 21%, while wages have only gone up less than 4%. That's what the union is saying. The union also wants a hard cap on class sizes. The Alberta government says, can't promise you that. You have a UCP government that has promised to build 30 new schools, fast track 11 more schools, build more portables. The union doesn't like that the government is budgeting $400 million or so, I think the figure is, for private schools. $400 million. It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of money, $400 million. The total education budget for the Alberta government, though, is almost $10 billion. So it's about 4% of the overall education budget that's going to private schools. But it's just the very idea of government money going to private, accredited private schools. But look, unless there's some kind of last minute breakthrough, and if there is, today or over the weekend, News Radio 660, keep it glued to News Radio 660. This could be the last day of school for a while in Alberta. Who's to blame for this mess? Like, what do you think? I hear the ads from the union on the radio all the time, doing it for the kids, doing it for the kids. Teachers unions always say they're doing it for the kids. The highest paid teachers under this new collective agreement, if they had accepted it, would they be the highest paid teachers in Western Canada, $114,000 a year. And I guess, what are you doing to get ready for it? What are you doing to get ready for it? What arrangements have you had to make? Are you scrambling? You're going to have to take time off work? What about childcare? What about this? What is it, Curtis? $150 a week, I think the government is promising. Something like that, $150 a week to help parents. An at-home curriculum so you can teach your children at home. You have even time to do that. On the teacher strike in Alberta, it's a big one, 1-833-668-2577 if you want to weigh in on that. Catherine in Waterloo. Hello, Catherine.
Yeah.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Rob. Yeah.
What's on your mind?
I'm here.
Go ahead.
I'm here. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
I listened to your show on, I'll say, Indigenous holiday, and you were asking, how can we help? Indigenous people. Well, I remember back with that Trump first term, he came over, I guess, to Toronto to a casino where Indigenous people were supposed to be working.
I don't know.
He rudely said, "I don't see any Indians here." But anyway, how is that helping, benefiting the different tribes here in Ontario? That's my question.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know really know the reference point that you're talking about. I don't remember any of that. But yeah, we had an interesting discussion, shall we say, on Truth and Reconciliation Day. But Catherine, look, thank you for paying attention, and thank you for thinking about that topic. If people want to entertain that again, by all means, 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. It's hour number 2 of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Jim is up next on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback here, hour number 2. Jim is in Bicyker. Am I saying that right, Jim? Hi, Jim.
Yes, that's correct. How are you?
All right. Very good.
This is the first.
You're my
this is the
first call
time
from there.
ever-
I've never taken a call from there. Just to let you know, that's why I had to ask you if I was saying it right. Thank you for calling.
There's a lady from Air Canada that calls you once in a while. That's just
Okay.
next door to me.
Okay.
And, you know, I just want to throw something out there.
Yeah.
About the rentals, people that pay rent all the time, right?
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, early 80s, we were able to write off a portion of our rent. And then it just disappeared. I don't remember why it went away or why we don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that has gone away. That was always, as I understand it, because I once applied for it and they told me I made too much money. I think that was more of a thing for low-income people.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, and
'cause
then
I
once she
just
started, I don't know if that even exists anymore, though. Kind of a tax credit, right? A low-income rental tax credit or something like that.
It doesn't exist anymore, no.
No,
I know lots
okay.
of renters, they wish they could do that. That would save them a little bit of money at the end of the year, right? Possibly a month
Yeah.
or two rent, right? So
Well, I suppose,
that's
yeah.
another way of helping somebody out, with the less income, right?
Yeah,
Anyway,
fair
I just
enough.
wanted to throw that out there. Yeah. And I
Okay.
like that joke about the cow with no legs.
yeah. Have you ever heard that before? I never heard.
No.
I mean,
no,
I've
I
heard
haven't heard that one.
versions, I've heard versions of a joke like that before that I'm not going to get into jokes on the radio, but that was a pretty good one, I thought.
Yeah. Well, here I got a half decent one. It's clean.
All right.
Don't upset anybody who has access to your toothbrush. Okay. Okay. Have a good day.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I suppose, that's good advice. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to Steve is in Calgary today. Hi, Steve.
Hi there. I just wanted to make a couple of points about the teacher strike in Alberta.
Sure. Yeah.
Quite often everybody says that we're the lowest funded, per student. But even Stats Canada will say like those numbers can be misleading because they put in the private school numbers as well. And if you look, Quebec is the highest average, and it actually has the highest number of enrollment in private schools as well. So, and we actually are on the lower end, and we have charter schools in Alberta, which it's a really attractive option, rather than not going to private school. It's pretty cheap, and it's funded by the government. And so just wanted to make that point that maybe we're not.
Yeah, I would just point out the ATA doesn't like that you have charter schools either. All right.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a great option because I mean, the one thing great about a charter school is, it's a lot easier to expel a kid from a charter school because you can just go back to the public. So the charter schools are kids that, are there that they have a lot of parent involvement. They're the kind of kids that just really want to learn. It's not just babysitting.
Well, yeah. And this is the argument that is made about why charter schools are increasingly more popular is because they can be more selective, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, just to want to say, I mean, sometimes it's not as simple as just, they're the lowest funded kids and whatnot. And if the teachers, I mean, increasing the number of teachers, I'm all for that, and I'm 100% behind you. But if it just comes down to like a wage increase, I'm not, because I mean, who in this country really right now is wages are keeping up with inflation? Not many people.
Yeah, fair enough. I find it curious that the Canada Post is offering higher raises than the Alberta government is offering to its teachers. I find that kind of incredible to me, not by much. Canada Post is offering its workers at basically an insolvent company a 13.6% raise over 4 years. The Alberta government is offering 12% to its teachers over 4 years. Do you have children in this? Do you have children in the school system, sir?
My kids actually just graduated last year.
Just
my youngest,
graduated?
so. Yeah, it was a pretty good experience, but I mean, definitely, there could be some more funding. Like I know versus from when I was in school, we had to do a lot more of our own, like, having to print things off and whatnot, where years ago that, the teacher just would have handed something out. Now they give you a link to a file and you have to print it off yourself for your kid, which is
I see. Okay.
annoying.
Did you send your children to public school or charter schools? Did you opt for the charter school? route? Or?
I went to public school, and then I put my kids in an all-girls school option that they had, which was still part of the Calgary board, but worked out good for them. It was math and science focused.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like, it's always going to be a kind of pick your sides kind of thing. I mean, who do you think is being the most unreasonable here? The union or the government?
Well, like I said, if it comes down to just increasing the number of teachers, I'm all for that, and I support the strike. But if it just comes down to a wage thing, they're already paid pretty well. I mean, I know like you said, the Canada Post is offering a higher, but the Canada Post workers are also starting at a much lower base, right? Like the teachers, they already top out around 100,000. That's a pretty good wage for summers off and whatnot. So,
yeah, okay, fair enough. Thank you. Thanks for the call. Be right back on Talkback, the Friday free-for-all on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, Friday free-for-all Talkback. Let's get right to it. Christina is on the line. I believe you're a teacher, Christina, in Alberta?
Yes, I am. I'm a half-time teacher, so I'm on my way home from school right now, but I thought I would chime in since you're talking about teachers and the strike.
Sure thing. Yeah. So you're going on strike on Monday?
So, as it stands now, yes. And to the naysayers out there, I would say that this is about the kids. It's not about the salary. There's a lot of schools in Calgary, particularly high schools, that have over 40 kids in a classroom. And there's a lot going on in that classroom when you throw in kids that are on IPPs, kids that are English language learners, kids that need additional support, and there's just not the support in place right now. Our classes have just continued to get bigger here. And I know that Danielle Smith and the government keep saying, well, we can't build schools fast enough.
Yeah. Isn't that true?
Build schools fast enough. It's true. You can only build as fast as you can build, but then they need to be able to fund. If you have to squish that many kids in a class, there needs to be a second teacher in the room. They need to be paying an additional teacher so that that one teacher isn't being asked to do the job of two teachers.
Okay, well, the government's pledge is to hire 3,000 teachers and 1,500 EAs. That's 4,500 staff in the education system, province-wide.
Yeah. Which
for
I would say that
schools.
they're still playing catch up. And I would just say they need to look overall at how can we best serve our students. And I would also say on the opposite end of the spectrum, my nieces and nephew live in a rural area in Alberta, in northern Alberta, and because they don't have enough kids in their school, the government won't even fund them to have enough teachers. So a lot of their classes, they have to show up at school and they have to be taught online while they're physically in the building because they don't have big enough numbers. So I think on the opposite end too, where it's not because it's overcrowded, but you don't have enough numbers, they also need to support those kids. So there just needs to be more funding in place to make those classes not as big in the cities, but also provide a good educational experience for the kids in the rural areas.
Hey, let me ask you this, because you see things on social media, you don't know if they're true or not. I saw on social media that your union doesn't even have a strike fund. You won't get strike pay.
So all of the teachers that have voted to go on strike, we are all going without pay.
Right. Your union didn't even set money aside for a strike? You have no strike pay?
Well,
like where is it? Where are your union dues going? You're paying union dues. You don't even have a strike fund. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, they are going to be paying for our healthcare benefits because the government has said they do not want school boards to continue paying for health benefits for teachers while we're on strike. So the union is actually using the union money to pay for that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I mean, you've got your ear to the ground there. What would be your advice to parents? I mean, should they be prepared for the long haul here? This is going to be
We
a long
really
strike.
have no idea.
No idea.
I think what the government is offering to pay parents versus put the money into education was, I don't know. I'm also a parent. I also have kids.
Yeah.
My kids are also in the public board, and when my 12-year-old son heard that the government was going to be paying parents, he looked at me and he said, Mom, why would they be doing that? Why wouldn't they put the money into the school system? And I said, exactly. So it's a little bit backwards.
Okay.
So I would say support your teachers the best that you can. There's going to be a rally on Sunday.
Rally on Sunday. Okay. I'm sure we'll be there. Thank you. See what happens with it. I don't know. If I was paying union dues and my union did not have a strike fund to pay me while I was walking a picket line, I'd be wondering where the heck are my union dues?
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
They're in the home stretch here now, the Friday free-for-all. Let's get right to it. Riley in Airdrie. Riley, on the air. Hello, Riley.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, Riley. Thank you. What's on your mind today?
Well, admittedly, I'm a little biased. My wife is a teacher.
Okay.
But, yeah, I definitely think the teachers are well within their rights to strike. You had a caller on the air a little while ago talking about, how they make $100,000 a year, and that's good money, which I'm not saying it's not, but it's been the same for the last 10 years. So, teachers that are in their 40s and have been teaching for 15, 20 years have been making the same amount since 2015. And $100,000 is, as we all know, is not the same in 2025 as it was then.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. Well, what I keep hearing, though, is not about the money.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it is about the kids at the end of the day. And I mean, the class sizes, you had a caller that was talking about class sizes, 40 kids in a class and, whatnot, and they're struggling to get teachers. And, isn't it kind of ironic that a province that's struggling to get teachers is also a province that's underpaying teachers?
Well, you say they're being underpaid, but they wouldn't be paid any better anywhere else in the country.
No, I mean, I think it's a problem not only in Alberta, but nationwide. I mean, these people are shaping the future, and have a really important job teaching the youth. And, we're not paying them adequately. The one caller was comparing them to Canada Post workers, and, Canada Post, I mean, hats off to them. And I hope they get their way as well, because I love having a postal service. Well, okay. I mean, it's getting a little old with the strikes, but
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if business is down 70% at Canada Post. Do you still need the same number of Canada Post employees? What are they doing all day? 60,000 people at a post office that's delivering 30% of what they used to deliver. Now you say, okay,
fair enough.
They're not paid enough. Well, let's just turn that around a bit. Okay, you're working 180 to 200 days a year. Nice break at Christmas, March break off. Summers off, great benefits. Okay. And at the end of your career, which would be probably 25, 30 years, you get a very nice pension. A teacher, no matter where they are, is going to get a very nice pension plan, fully indexed to the rate of inflation. Okay.
For sure.
Now think of the economic environment that we are in. All right. You're in Alberta, right? You're in Alberta?
Correct, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got 900 people from Imperial Oil were just laid off.
Yeah.
From Calgary.
No, I hear you. I mean,
here you guys are with money in the bank, steady employment, steady pay. Nobody's saying we're going to lay off any teachers. I mean, you should, count your blessings to a certain extent. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, definitely teaching is it's got its perks, but let's not forget that, to become a teacher, you have to go to school for quite a long time. It's not exactly an easy profession to get into.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
5 years. That's a good amount of time, no? So you have to go to school for, a while. You're a professional. You've been making the same amount for, is it 9 or 10 years? They haven't had a pay bump. Inflation's been going crazy. This deal that's on the table would essentially, once they realize they're 12%, are going to be making the same as they're making today. Inflation is probably going to be going up, 12% in the next 4 years.
Okay.
So I'm just, and you mentioned the teaching days. It's like, from an outsider perspective, it's like you go to work at 9 and you're off at 3, but
No. I know it's not like that. I know it's not like that. I know there's a lot. I know there's a lot of prep time. I know there's a lot of prep time. I know. There are a lot of issues, and I know a lot of teachers are they're not happy. They're not happy with what they call classroom complexity. Students with special needs, right? Students with language barriers. Another big issue is schools are becoming more violent places.
Yeah.
A lot of violence in the schoolroom. Not enough support staff, EAs, mental health professionals. I've heard all of this. That's why, we're just throwing it out there as a topic. There will be people, and I've taken your call. I took the previous call, who are very supportive of the teachers. I understand that. I'd certainly be questioning your union why they don't have a strike fund.
Yeah, no, it's my wife's union. Yeah, I'm married to a teacher, but
right.
Yeah, it's I agree. And
like for example, these Cup W workers who are paying their union dues, they're getting. It's not a lot of money, but they're getting $56 a day.
It's not zero.
They're getting $56 a day. Okay, they're getting about $250 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Which is $1,000 a month to at least help tide them over a little bit while they're out on strike.
Yeah,
your wife's union doesn't even have that for their members.
No,
it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. In fact, there are probably some teachers, if they have children, who will get more from the Smith government through this $150 a week than they'll actually get from their union in strike pay. It's absurd.
Yeah, and for all this money that they're throwing at it, it's like the government had a plan. They knew that this was going to happen, so they've allocated all this money. It's like, why don't you put that towards the deal that you're going to be needing to make with the teachers to get them to go back to work.
Okay,
and or maybe avoid the strike altogether.
Got you, Riley. Let's just hope it's short. Okay, or settled over the weekend. Maybe it gets settled over the weekend. It doesn't sound like it's going to be settled over the weekend, but you never know. Miracles can happen. Be right back. Talkback, News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Andrew's in Calgary. Hi, Andrew. You're on the air. Friday Free for All Talkback. What's on your mind?
Hey there, Rob. Happy Friday to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump on the teacher bandwagon again.
Okay, go ahead.
So money aside, I think that the X factor here is the parents. There's all this talk between the government and the teachers, but I think the parents need to mobilize, because this has been a topic every election. And as voters, we got to sit there and remind them and keep them accountable and say, hey, we are sick and tired of having 30, 40 kids in a class. This has been going on for over a generation. Why are you continuing to do this? And we got to hold Danielle Smith accountable and her government accountable and tell them this.
Okay, well, if it's been going on for generations, why do you just hold Danielle Smith accountable? She hasn't been the premier for generations.
She's there currently right now.
Okay, all right. Okay.
She's sitting in the chair right now, so that's the name I'm throwing out. But yeah, I can't figure out why. Well, I guess I can probably guess. It's just all about money. The government doesn't want to spend money and yada, yada, yada. But
well, I think the government would say they're spending more on public education than they've ever spent before. You're spending $9.9 billion on the public education system in the province of Alberta. It's the most any government has ever spent ever on public education.
In order
in
to
that
play
province. Oh, all to play catch up. Right. Yeah, we keep hearing that. We keep hearing that.
It really is. I mean, my ex-father-in-law had a school right down the street from him, a block away. He was not allowed to go to that school because it was full. And that's a generation ago. He had to be bused somewhere else. So they've been doing this for a while here anyway in Calgary, where they're just not building enough schools, not hiring enough teachers, and they're just playing catch up year after year. So they need to at this point. So that's why those numbers are so big.
Okay. So what do you think resolves this?
Well, I guess.
Like you're going to have 700,000 kids. They're not going to have a place to go on Monday. And their parents are going to have to either miss work to take care of them, or you're going to have to find some kind of childcare arrangement for them. This is a major inconvenience for a lot of people. How do you avoid this? Because it's got to be give and take on both sides. You know, education can't be a bottomless pit. There's going to be a lot of demands on the public purse in the province of Alberta, as there are in all provincial governments. This is not the only pressure that governments are facing. The economy is weakening. That's going to mean more unemployment. You have ever increasing healthcare costs. Everything, you know, everybody has their hand out right now.
So if we're trying to figure out a solution, diplomatically speaking, you're right. Both sides got to give and take. I agree. And if it really is about the kids, and at least as far as parents are concerned, class sizes and support, then, you know, it's not about increasing the wages. It is about doing something about the class sizes and the support and getting the people in there. And I think the extra voice that needs to come to the table are the parents, the voters, to sit there and go, look, you know, work it out, because we as parents, these are our children here that are suffering, not just teachers that are suffering. My child is suffering, and we need to let the current government know that we're tired of it.
Okay. All right, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of sympathy for the teachers today. I have to say, Mariana in Calgary. Hi, Mariana.
Yes. Hi. Good to be here.
Yeah. Good to hear from you. What's on your mind?
I've been in Calgary. I moved from a ex-communist country 30 years ago, and I was a teacher back home, and I was planning to go back into teaching here in Canada. And I didn't speak any English at the time. I started working in a daycare, thinking that daycare is going to be a good transition for me eventually to get back into teaching. What really surprised me here was seeing how little respect the parents they have for teachers. I was quite shocked. The children, they could not be disciplined. It was always the teacher's fault because the teacher had to supervise a child, and was considered that the teacher had the duty to educate on every single level the child, which I think it's outrageous, because as a parent, I think it's your duty as well to supervise your child and to cooperate with the school.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the issues. It relates to, you know, the issue of violence at school. It's not just the children who are misbehaving. The Canadian Federation of Teachers did some research on this. It's more than half of teachers, first of all, have said that they have experienced workplace violence. Most of the cases involve students, but it's also parents who aren't behaving themselves. It's parents who become physically or verbally abusive to the teacher, and it's not like parent-teacher night. All kinds of reports of online harassment, parents taking to social media, going on Facebook, bad-mouthing the teacher. Just terrible behavior from some parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. And then if you take today's, marijuana is legalized, then we know very well that the parents are smoking at home, it's not illegal. But when the child sees it, for the child becomes normal as well. And I work in customer service, and I have customers that are teachers, and they are saying that they have to put up with swears from the children. They have to put up with spitting, very, very high level of disrespect. And yet the parents are doing nothing about it. So of course it goes back to, if I'm a teacher and I'm not respected, at least for me taking all these disrespect and violence, at least I need better pay. I need something to compensate me on all this disrespect. Plus, yes, we are talking about the number of the children in a classroom, of course. A lot of immigrants coming in, and it takes a while for them to adjust. So yes, it's about the pay, it's about the classroom, but it's also, I think, it's a very high level of disrespect that the teachers, they have to put up with.
Okay, gotta go. Thank you. I gotta run. Thank you for your call. Bye-bye. Be right back on Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Tom is up next on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Tom.
Hi there. How are you? Great show.
Very good, Tom. Yeah, thank you.
3 different
Tom.
topics.
3,
first
okay.
is, I guess I know you don't like 3, but
that's okay.
Teachers, I think I agree with your response earlier with, I don't think this is about money. I think it's about support, class sizes. The question, and you probably have the numbers, is the $7 billion Alberta spends on education, does it also include charter and private schools?
$9.9 billion, yeah, and that includes, well, I don't know the exact breakdown for charter schools, but it does include about $400 million for accredited private schools, about 4% of the budget.
It would be interesting to break that number down into just public schools, because they don't have the ability to determine who gets to come to school and who doesn't, as in charter and private schools get to.
Yep.
Next topic is, and I've been meaning to call for weeks, but Canadian economy with the, what could we do, should we do, has not to be like the U.S., because that's a tense subject, but mortgage interest deductibility on taxes. I'm not sure of the impact, but I'm sure it would have a tremendous impact on the Canadian economy. And the third one is, I commute regularly, and I happened to go by a Canada Post office recently and saw someone with a big billboard that said, "Invest in people, not technology." Now that leads me to believe that Canada Post Office membership or union is, far behind the times, let alone the current times. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how particularly they can say we want to employ people, not technology, in this time and day.
Okay. That's not keeping up with a modern workforce anyway, right?
It's not even,
it's
not
just
even
being
remotely close.
Yeah, even complete denial, really, about the changes that are happening across society. Yes.
If that's the standpoint, then, as they go on strike, once, twice, et cetera, they're going to further and further erode any requirement to have them. And I think that's what, the members and union need to deal with. There is not a business in the world that is going to lose. Yep.
You and I are of a certain vintage, I think, Tom, not to make an assumption here, but I believe so. When there was a time when a Canada Post would cause a strike, would cause absolute paralysis. And it would be, urgent for the government to resolve it one way or another. Either encourage management to settle quickly with the union or order back to work legislation. Clearly, though, we are not in that time anymore. There are many more options for both businesses and people to choose from. And it seems nobody has informed Cup W about that. Look, we're going to have to end it all there for the week. Enjoy your weekend. Go Jays, go. And we'll be back on Monday with more breaking news.